Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, given the global security environment, I think it's fair to say that many Australians have been prepared to cut this government a bit of slack. Many Australians, it seems, accept the need, albeit reluctantly, for Australia to be part of a genuinely multinational military intervention against Islamic State in Iraq. And I think many Australians would agree that our security legislation should be constantly monitored and updated from time to time as and when required. For instance, as technology changes, there is a good argument to be made that we should make our legislation technology neutral, so it doesn't have to be amended every day with each new gadget that's invented. But, Deputy Speaker, rather than understanding the limits that should be imposed on these sorts of changes, the government is overreaching. The government has betrayed the trust that's being put in it by the community to look after our security. The first tranche of security changes that went through this place some weeks ago was a breathtaking demonstration of how this government is betraying the trust that's been put in it by the Australian community. And this bill today, the second tranche of the security reforms, or so-called reforms, is another breathtaking betrayal of the trust that has been put in the government by the Australian community. This bill today, Deputy Speaker, is unwarranted, it is recklessly prepared, it is being rushed through and it is not needed. There are so many problems with this bill, many of which have been very well described by my colleague, the member for Melbourne. If I could single out a few things that jump straight out at me, thematic concerns I have with this bill. For a start, the way it lowers the threshold for the arrest of individuals from a belief that a terror crime is about to be committed to a suspicion that a terror crime is about to be committed. Heavens, Deputy Speaker, what's next? We're going to have a bill next week that if there's a hunch or a suspicion or worry that someone might one day change their mind and dream of committing an offence. I mean, this lowering of the threshold from belief to suspicion fundamentally undermines our approach to justice in this country. Since when, Deputy Speaker, is it an offence or should it be an offence to jail someone potentially for life because we suspect them of something? It is an absurdity, Deputy Speaker. There is very good reason why up until now it has been the law that someone would only be charged and only be prosecuted if there is solid grounds to believe they have committed an offence. To charge them and jail them out of suspicion is patently absurd. And the punishment that might be awarded is completely and utterly disproportionate. Because now, if this bill becomes law, and heaven hope it doesn't become law, but if it does become law, someone could be jailed for life because they are suspected of something. I mean, this is the making of a police state. It is certainly a very, very alarming decay of our justice system and our approach to justice in this country, that someone could be punished in such a disproportionate way. They could be jailed for life for being suspected of intending to do something wrong, or even just hanging out with someone, perhaps sharing a room in their house with someone who is doing something wrong.
Order.
Deputy Speaker,
Member for Denison. You may not like what the member for Denison has to say, but he has the right to say it in this parliament without interruption.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. A third concern is the way this bill seeks to move power from the judiciary to the executive. And it does that in two fairly obvious ways. One is the fact that certain punitive measures will be taken or would be taken by the minister or someone appointed by the minister. This idea that we could remove someone's entitlement to Centrelink, not because they've been found to commit an offence, but because the minister or someone appointed to the minister decides that someone is not worthy of receiving Centrelink benefits. I mean, that is just as much a punitive measure as putting someone in jail. But why on earth would you allow a punitive measure to be taken out of the hands of the judiciary and given to a minister or someone that minister appoints? It is patently unjust, unfair, and shouldn't be supported. And the fact that now it will be, if this bill becomes law, it will be an offence to be suspected of something, that alone removes the burden of proof that's required to find that someone is guilty of that offence. Again, it is taking power away from the judiciary, because how is the judiciary going to disagree with the authorities when all they've got to do is say we suspect someone? There'll be next to no burden of proof to prove that they're suspected of something. Again, it is taking the power away from the judiciary. And what's this overturning of the whole presumption of guilt and innocence? I mean, up until now, our justice system has been based quite rightly on a presumption of innocence. But this bill, as quite ably described by my colleague, the member of Melbourne, rests on a presumption of guilt. And it's up to the person that's accused to prove that they haven't done something that they're suspected of doing. I mean, this is just turning our whole justice system on its head. It's crazy. And why are we going to have these laws anyway, Deputy Speaker? Because the fact is, it is already a serious criminal offence to go over and to fight in a foreign war. It's already a very serious criminal offence to kill someone. It's already a serious criminal offence in Australia because of reforms over the last decade or so to be found to be intending to commit an act of terror. So the case has simply not been made that we need new and additional laws and even stronger punitive measures. And that's what makes me think, Deputy Speaker, that the government is not only overreaching, but the government is seeking to exploit the current security environment. And in that is a terrible breach of trust, because governments must always be measured. Governments must only ever diminish the rights, the freedoms of the members of the community when there is the most compelling case to make. But at times like this, where no case has been made at all that there's a need for new, stronger laws, we find these laws coming into the parliament. This is a breach of faith with the Australian community, Deputy Speaker. The government is overreaching. It's trying to exploit the security situation. And it's failing to keep the security agencies on a short leash. Because clearly the government has gone to the security agencies and said, "What do you want?" And the security agencies have said, "We want a list this long." And the government said, "Not a problem, you can have the lot." We'll tinker with them a little through the Security Committee and a few amendments, but basically come to us with your wish list and you can have the lot. And that is wrong, because of course the security agencies will want the world. It's up to politicians to keep them on a short leash and to give them only what they genuinely need. Deputy Speaker, this bill is clearly unsatisfactory and I will not support it. Part of the issue is the problems with the bill, but I am just about equally alarmed by the behaviour of the Labor Party and the opposition here. This is the second security bill in a row in a couple of sitting weeks where the opposition is just rolling over. Now, what on earth is the role of an opposition? Surely it's to cast a critical eye over everything the government of the day wants to do and to point out the problems in it in the most effective way and to oppose anything the government wants to do when the government's intentions are clearly unsatisfactory. But quite frankly, when it comes to security, the Labor Party is gutless. The Labor Party is scared stiff of being seen to be weak on national security. It is so scared stiff, when the government says jump, the opposition asks how high. They're not being responsible. They're not at all being responsible. A responsible opposition takes the fight up to the government and highlights problems when there are problems to be seen and to be dealt with. And I think this is a case where the Labor Party is letting the Australian community down terribly. and it's being left again to the crossbench to be the opposition in this place. This is what happened a couple of weeks ago with the first security reform bill. It was left to the member for Indi, the member for Melbourne and myself to oppose it and to be the opposition in this place. I call on the Labor Party to act like an opposition. Be prepared to fight the good fight. Be prepared to make the case in the court of public opinion when a case needs to be made. Because I tell you what, in my own electorate, I've lost count of the number of people who used to call themselves Labor supporters who are sick and tired of the Labor Party not standing for anything anymore. Now, I've got a lot of time for the Labor Party, and the Labor Party has a proud history and it's done a lot of good things for this country. But by the way it's rolling over at the moment, I think is downright appalling. And no wonder the Labor Party has so much difficulty with so many of its supporters. Deputy Speaker, we do live in dangerous times. There does need to be a constant watch kept on our security agencies and on our security legislation. But dangerous times should not, must not, give a government licence to do whatever it wants and to bring in the sort of security reforms that we've seen in this place coming through in this bill today and a few weeks ago with its first tranche of legislation. There is no doubt that the government is exploiting the heightened security environment and is taking the opportunity, quite cynically, to do whatever it wants. And that is not good enough, Deputy Speaker. This is a time for a government to show leadership. It's not a government to exploit opportunities. It's not a time for a government to overreach the way it's doing now. I will not support this bill. I will not support this bill. I will support the amendments by the member for Melbourne. And I wait, like the rest of Australia, to see whether the government is going to go ahead with this madness of mandatory data retention in its third tranche of reform, presumably perhaps today or perhaps in the next sitting week. Because I tell you what, the government is completely and utterly out of step at the moment with majority public opinion with the way it's going with these reforms. The case has not been made, Deputy Speaker, that we need these reforms. I make the point again, it's already a serious criminal offence to go and fight in a war in another country. It's already a serious criminal offence to plan an act of terror. It's already a serious criminal offence to kill someone. The case has not been made, Deputy Speaker, for the need for the sorts of reforms that are likely to go through this House today, particularly with the spineless behaviour of the Labor Party. I make the point again, the lowering of the threshold, the disproportionate way punishment is going to be applied, the way power is being shifted from the judiciary to the executive, the way the presumption of innocence has been turned on its head and now we live with a justice system based on a presumption of guilt, the fact that we're going ahead with a whole raft of laws which are not needed, laws which seek to deal with problems that either can be dealt with the existing laws or problems that don't exist. I lament the fact that it's left to the crossbench to be the opposition in this place. Hopefully the Labor Party will find its voice again on these sorts of matters in the future. I see the Shadow Attorney-General sitting there. Hopefully Labor will at least find its voice and its strength when it comes to the mandatory data retention reforms that will come into this place very, very soon. I can but hope. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.